Kids have needs. What are some needs that kids have? Anybody, just fire them out. Acceptance. Food. We're doing teenagers here, right? They need food. Friends. Money.
More money.
So you have girls, right? Other things they need? Clothes. Independence. Affection. Good.
Boundaries.
Wow, boundaries. Holy cow, what the heck is a boundary? Sarcasm. Yeah, they need sarcasm, certainly. Yeah, we'll get to sarcasm in a second. Any other? Education. Important. Well, what I've done is sort of drill down needs into an acronym, sarcasm. And to me, this is the, as I get kids in my office, most of what I do is I treat teenagers and adolescents. I start looking at these 7 areas to see, where, how are their behaviors. We talked about being the interpreter of reality. Another role we play is translator. So they have stuff going on inside them. It comes out as certain behavior. Most kids don't really know how to articulate really what's in their heart, what's going on. But it's coming out of their behavior. They're trying to tell us something. And as their parents, as a therapist, as a teacher, part of what our job is to try to interpret or translate, what's going on inside. We have to be translator. They're speaking something language in there, but it's coming out this language out here. How do we jive that? How do we make that connect? And then how do we give them the words to articulate better about what's going on inside them, so that they can articulate it instead of acting it out in these other kind of ways, so they can articulate it and they have then a much better chance of really getting those needs that are inside met. And so as I look at these 7 areas: self, ability, relationships, consistency, adoration, security, and meaning. So what we're going to do is going to go through these 7 and just talk about, what's a brief definition, what's an example, how are they manifest in a kid's life, in a teenager's life, in the family, in social settings. I pick sports because I know for me a lot of this just makes sense in sports, and that's the easiest way to look at it. But you can pick any kind of activity that they're involved with. And then what, as parents, we can do to help them fill that particular need in a more healthy way. And what does the Bible, and what is their faith, what is the connection with God, how does that help meet that need? And how can we help them understand and engage with that to meet these needs more clearly? So the first one, we're going to start off with self, or identity. Definition: to develop their own uniqueness. Develop their own uniqueness. This is something that kids need. Even as adults, all these things are things for adults too, but kids, hopefully as adults we aren't as out there as far as we found some ways to meet these things in more healthy ways. But our teenagers are struggling with that. They're trying to figure out what their needs are, and how do you get them met? Some examples I listed here. Any other examples that you guys would have that come to mind about how your kids, or kids that you see in the classroom, try to show their uniqueness?
Maybe the talent.
Talent.
Art.
Yeah, just speak up. You don't have to raise your hand. Art. So another talent. The rooms? Yeah, like what?
Well, my stepson wanted to paint his walls gray stone. Design the window, have a wall that you would paint on. My stepdaughter wanted everything like a little princess. They were both very invested.
Exactly. There's some people that will allow that, but there's some people that no. Everything has to be sort of uniform. This is the way it has to be, or this is the way I want it. Now, there's some things we have to have boundaries for that somebody mentioned, but there's other things that we can allow them to express themselves and express their uniqueness. Or at least explore what their uniqueness is. Might not be their uniqueness, but at least at this point, that's what they feel it is. How does it manifest? Looking at the family, they have a unique position, role, and perspective. We think that all our kids are the same. They're born in the same house with the same parents, but boy, if you have multiple kids, you know that they grow up in a different order, in a different home. My oldest grows up with all younger siblings. My youngest grows up with all older siblings. They're not in the same home. There's different, unique perspectives they have of the family unit. They have different contributions to the family structure. They have their own different personalities. Sometimes they avoid sibling strengths. For me, we moved around a lot when I was a kid, and I remember moving to 7th grade, and the movie The Godfather came out. And being Italian and moving to this area, I sort of took that on as my sort of uniqueness. I'm going to grow up in this Italian family, so being Italian and being sort of like a little mafia, didn't really know what it meant. In those days, I don't know why they let us watch those movies as kids, but they did. But so that was how I wanted to express my uniqueness in this sort of Italian, and playing it up for about 6 months until I got some acceptance and realized, boy, that was don't really need to do that. My brother, to develop his uniqueness, I played a lot of sports. The sports that I did the worst at and didn't like as much was football. He was better at all the other sports than he was at football, but he chose to play football just because that, instead of being compared to me by all the coaches through school and along the way, that was the one where he wasn't compared as much, and that's where he chose, where was his unique expression. In school, certainly expressing their uniqueness by the different subjects, the things that they pursue. So we mentioned art, different courses that they excel in, by their grades. I've had some kids even through their failure express their, the other kids in the family do well, but them doing that didn't really stick out. But by them failing, it sort of sticks out, and they get a lot more attention, so they would purposely fail. Again, sports, you have all these needs really expressed well in sports. You're part of a team, but each person has their own number, their own position, their own role, their own unique part in the process. Certainly there's that whole social scene as a teenager. So their expression through fashion, the peer group they hang out with, what their style is that they choose to dress in or to act within that peer group that they have. Now, how can we play a part in developing this uniqueness for them? So we're going to look at parents and our faith to try to treat them as individuals, help them assess and evaluate themselves. Sometimes we don't do a good job of thinking out loud. In our house, we try to think out loud a lot in front of our kids. A lot of times, I knew growing up, my parents really didn't think out loud. They just sort of came up with decisions. I really never knew where the heck a decision came from, or what's the process of making a decision. And, at the age of 18, there is no lightning bolt from the sky that comes down and makes you a good decision maker when you get that diploma. So to be able to think out loud in front of your kids, I think, is a real important thing. They see you, how you assess yourself, and how you assess your uniqueness and your gifts and your talents. And that hopefully allows them to sort of incorporate that into how they look at themselves, how they assess themselves, how they look at their uniqueness. Obviously giving them a lot of validation and telling them, what their specialness is and their special part in your life is real important. Can anybody give me any concrete ways that they do this at this point?
Family meetings.
Family meetings. Did you look at the back of the...
No.
Okay, good. That's
Is there?
I think, and I'm going to talk about it at the end, but I'll talk about it now. As you look at all